Hello and welcome to another Space Engineers experiment. And today's question is, can we scrap ships like this? Alright, so to answer that question, can we scrap ships with thrusters? You gotta go back and kind of see what is the thruster damage range for the ones that are utilized in space. So one, we have the small hydrogen thrusters, which really pre-tested it. It's about 2 block ranges, so 2 large block ranges, where if you put a ship close enough between the 2 blocks, right there, and turn on the thrusters, it should be able to melt down ships such as this. Although with the small thrusters, that can take some time to do. But the one thing I do like about it is that it doesn't have any range where you can't burn like a large hydrogen thrusters. With the large grid, it's got about 6 block range where it won't burn. But the problem is certain areas like these corners don't necessarily burn. So you have to be really specific in front of the thruster itself. So for an example, putting it in front of one large thruster, it should be able to burn it down with some ease, except for certain areas that's surrounding the thruster. But it is much faster than the small grid version, as you see here. If you do hear a bit of a noise in my background, that is my computer screaming for help, as I have way too much blocks for this experiment. And also, just to double check to make sure, there's 2 variations of hydrogen thrusters. One of them is one large block longer than the original one. So this one is the same distance as the original hydrogen thruster. I was thinking maybe it'll get 1 block more, but no, it's still the 6 block range in that case. And of course, we have ion thrusters. Ion thrusters with large grid and small grid. They should be pretty decent as well. In space, of course. Unfortunately, it is only 4 large blocks range. And similar to a large grid version of the hydrogen thrusters, there's some areas where a large grid ion thruster will miss, but makes for pretty decent barbecuing of a ship. And here is the small grid PROTOTECH Thruster. And what we found out is that it is got 3 large grid block burning range. So putting this to the test with small grid PROTOTECH thrusters, it certainly sounds crazy and it seems to burn a little quicker, but a very nice barbecuing of a small grid ship. And of course, last up is the large grid PROTOTECH thrusters. That is surprisingly 8 block burning range, roughly, which is quite the distance. And this one's loaded up with a whole bunch of small grid ships nearby, but in 3, 2, 1, that's much bigger a barbecue session. And it's completely possible to burn down a large grid fairly quickly with the PROTOTECH thruster. As you see, we're just melting down this large grid ship with some ease. Alright, so to answer the question, can we scrap like this? Kind of. It's not practical whatsoever, but it looks like it's doing its work here. As you see, things are exploding and everything like that. So I originally designed this farm, this ion thruster scrapping farm with pistons, but the sheer power of the thrusters, or at least the PROTOTECH thrusters, destroy the pistons fairly quickly once I turn them on. I put some counterweight or counter thrusters to kind of keep it there. Kind of worked out, but you need a lot of power to maintain the override like this with so many thrusters. But the farm itself, it is a bunch of collectors that's going to be collected to a large cargo container or mini cargo container, depending on what you want to do with it. And the main thing is to put in the middle, basically right here, is going to be a spherical gravity generator. So if we go back here and go show gravity range, you'll see that it's a spherical thing, and everything will try to reach into the middle. Obviously, in this case, you want to shrink the radius a bit because we don't need it to be that big. We just need to get as big as the farm in this case, so slightly up there, and if anything, covering the thrusters. So anytime we drop anything, like some clan cola, it'll just drop right inside the middle right there. And of course, you use regular gravity generators. Spherical ones just work a little bit better, as it kind of just sucks you right into the middle, like I am right now. So like if we were on this edge of this spherical gravity gen, throwing some clan cola, it should still reach to the middle or close to the middle of the collector. So that went right around here. And even if I turn on my jetpack, you see I'm going to dive right into a collector like so. That's pretty much all the items going to do that. But once again, you're only collecting scrap. So scrap could turn into iron. And that's the only resource you'll get out of it. So it's definitely not really practical. Alright, so let's take a look at large thrusters to see what their newtons are. So one large hydrogen thruster, we got a thruster override up to 7.2 meganewtons right over here. Large iron thruster is 4.3. And of course, lastly, PROTOTECH Thruster is 14.0 meganewtons. Nearly double of the large hydrogen thrusters, and almost 4 times more than the large ion thruster. And with the maximum megawatts, it's about double the large ion thruster in this case as well. Alright, so now time for a quick test to see which one burns a small grid faster. Alright, so each small grid lined up to be as close as we can to the middle. So unfortunately, this looks there's a lot of space here, but nope, it's actually touching the hydrogen thruster, the ion thruster, and the PROTOTECH Thruster right over here. Alright, so which one of these ships will burn a lot quicker based on the thrusters, the different thrusters, the different meganewtons? I would probably predict, obviously, the PROTOTECH Thruster based on the meganewtons. But we will put it to the test in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so we have a clear winner. As you can see here, the hydrogen thruster and the ion thruster actually is quite similar in terms of damage at the same time, roughly. And of course, the PROTOTECH Thruster did much more significant damage quickly and continue to do so. So once again, is it possible to scrap like this? Yeah, but you're likely going to lose some scraps, especially if you have a big farm like I did. And obviously, it's not as reasonable as grinding your ship down with a grinding pit or something like that. Just want to see if there's another option to scrap a small grid ship or even a large ship. Completely possible. Not smart idea whatsoever. But always a nice little fun experiment. And now you know also the thruster damage range for a PROTOTECH Thruster. So I hope you guys enjoyed this experiment. If you did, please like and subscribe. Don't forget to drop a comment down below, even to just say hi. And of course, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.